We're going live because we're alive. There we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nהיה b'dbaro. L'chaim, l'chaim, everyone. L'chaim. So, did you ever get angry in your life? I'm sure no one here, that learns Tanya. I'm sure never occurred. I'm just speaking, in the Weltrein, just, the world in general. We live in a world today that there's a lot of anger. Politically, from the right to the left. The more extreme you go, the more anger. Not less anger. More. But even if you're in the middle, also, everybody seems to be angry. I shouldn't say everybody, again, excluding our present company. Is everybody giving up on it? And we just say, well, that's just the way it goes, and that's the way of the world? Is that what's happening? Or do we have a solution for this? So there's a lot of anger management groups. There's a lot of self-help books out there to help someone with anger management. It's a huge thing. Now, self-help means that you want to have help. And some people feel actually justified in their anger because they can point to the person or to the thing, the event, or whatever it is that led to them to being upset and angry. And they feel justified. Is there anger that is justified? Or is just that's out of bounds? Righteous anger. That's what the right says about the left, and that's what the left says about the right. Each one is righteous and the other one is wicked, right? I'm not discounting what you're saying, but it seems like a challenge. Doesn't God Almighty himself get angry? Good question. And if God can get angry, well, then for sure I could, because I'm only human. If the creator of the world could get angry, where does that leave me? Obviously, I have justification. If he could be justified, after all, what kind of justification is there for him? Right? What kind of justification? So, yeah. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch and Kedeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. All right. How do we deal with anger? I suggest that if what we learned today will be sufficient, this one session, to minimize, if not obliterate, get rid of any anger issues that we might have. It sounds like a lot. Well, let's hang on and let's see where this takes us. This is the 25th letter. The Alter Rebbe, is coming to defend teachings of the Baal Shem Tov in this, which we'll get in, we'll begin with a bit, but we'll digress from it. But teachings from the Baal Shem Tov that were written in a book that he didn't write, but was written from his teachings, Tzavos HaRivash, as it's called. And in it, there's some who are not Hasidic, but, learned, scholarly Jews took issue with his teachings. So he begins Lahavin Imri Bina, to comprehend the words of understanding, meaning the words of Torah. From the Baal Shem Tov's book, Tzavos HaRivash, which means, translated means that the last testament of the Baal Shem Tov. So first thing he says, this is not his will and testament. It's called that, but it's not his last will and testament. It is merely gleanings of his teachings that are, gathering of and compilations of his teachings throughout his years. And the compiler who put it into Hebrew did not translate properly from the Yiddish that he spoke. He spoke in Yiddish, and it was written in Hebrew. So it's easy, when you translate something from one language to another, that there might be a mistake in the translation. And this is really where the issue stems, is in how it was translated, and therefore was misunderstood. Okay? So he's not going into what this issue is right now. Later on, we'll go into it. But he says we need to preface a teaching from our sages that says that whoever is in rage resembles an idolater. That's a pretty strong statement. A very strong statement. Why would it be that if you are angry, you're upset, that you would be similar to an idolater? This is, again, teachings of the sages in the Talmud. So very simple, because when you're angry, faith in God in that moment has been removed from you. Why? Because what is our faith? That God controls the world. And all of a sudden something happened to me, and not to my liking. So I'm upset. I get angry. That means what? It happened to you? Well, where did it come from? Did it come happenstance? That's lack of faith in God. That it didn't come from God. Right? Is that clear? So if you really believe in God, you wouldn't get angry at all when somebody does something to you, whether verbally, whether physically. You wouldn't get angry. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, but that person perpetrated something evil. That's true. The evil that a person perpetrated, they are responsible for, and God will make them take up that responsibility, as we actually just learned about even Cain, right? It might not be immediate, but whatever evil is done, there's a consequence to the evil, and God will bring justice through heaven. And of course, if there's a court down here that it is adjudicated, then it'll be through courts here likewise. So that doesn't absolve a person from doing evil. However, the fact that a person was harmed down here, right? In other words, there's the perpetrator who chose to do ill, for that the responsibility, and the book's thrown at them completely. But then there is the effect of that, how that affected the one who was harmed. That's already a decree from heaven. And God has many agents. In other words, if this person wouldn't have harmed you, you would have got harmed from someone else or some other way, and it could have even been worse. Could even be worse. Is that clear? Yeah. Now, let's make a distinction over here to bring clarity. If someone does harm to me and I get angry at a person, by and large, why am I angry? Because he did something that harmed me. Yeah, but that's decreed from heaven. Where seldom will it be that we got harmed and we're upset at somebody because they made a immoral choice. Usually it's because of the harm, the consequence of that choice that that person made that I'm upset with. That means you're not believing in God, that this came from God. Again, this is not absolve the person for what they did, but what they did and the effect of that is already two separate things, right? And just to let me just explain. A friend of mine was once walking on a misty day in New York City, and a punk kid came up to him with a gun and said, "Give me your money." My friend was, a bit crazy. He took the umbrella that he was holding and just whacked the gun. Kid pulled the trigger, and a bullet went out. Gun went flying. Kid ran away, and my friend went home. Comes home, his wife sees him. He's bloody. He didn't realize, but the bullet lodged in his chin. He didn't realize it because of the moment. What happened over here? The kid wanted to do harm. For that, the kid's responsible. Was harm done? Well, it could have been that the bullet would have been deflected off the umbrella and missed him completely. Or, God forbid, even worse, gone through his brain and he wouldn't be here. Right? But the fact is, it went and it got lodged in his chin. Right? Who decided that? God. So the choice to do ill is the person's choice. The effect of the choice is not their choice. Right? That's not their choice. That God controls. Right? So God is in control of what's going to be. And therefore, there's nothing to, but that goes even further. God's not only in control of the consequence, but the offender, the fact that the offender could do an offense. Where does the power come from? Has he got an energizing bunny behind him that, gave him the energy to do ill? Of course not. Who gave him the energy to do ill? Who gave him the power to do it? God. Now, the question is not why. That's not the issue over here. The question is what? What's going on? The power to do ill, God gives the power to a person to do it. Right? We see that in the story of King David, and when his general Shimi, after there was a revolt by his own son against him, that fleeing the palace to save his life, Shimi cursed him. And the soldier, his, I don't know who was with him. Yeah, I don't know, general who was said, he should be killed. He said no. He speaks God. He speaks the word of God. God. What was the words that he said? God told him to curse. That's what he said, King David. God told him to curse. Now, we don't find anywhere where God told him to curse. What it means is God gave him the power to curse. So he accepted it, and it's coming from God. What does it mean God gave him the power? Well, because God animates everything with his word every single moment. He's creating the world ex nihilo, something from nothing, every single moment. So he's giving it the power to me right now to speak. Right? Where do I have the power to speak? Well, I create my power? Where's my power come from? So if I'm speaking good, it's coming from God, and if I'm speaking bad, it's coming from Satan. That's another religion. Judaism. Everything comes from God. The power to speak ill is a power. It's coming from Klipa, not directly from God, what he truly wants, but he's giving the power nonetheless, right? The power that's a means to some greater end. Why would God do that? Okay, that's, again, many possibilities. And the point being is that the power comes from God, right? Which is pretty powerful. So we conclude today's class. We're going to learn a lot more about this, but just just what we just learned now, in of itself, is sufficient to help us with anger and a true anger management session. Whatever happened is coming from God. It was meant for you. And if it wouldn't have been that person that brought the damage to you, so it would have been someone else. It might have been worse. Maybe this was less damage, right? That's that's called faith. What's our faith? That God's in control. More than that, the control is more than God's in control. God's giving the power for the person that they can do whatever they're doing for good and, you know. So when we recognize that, oh my gosh, what's there to get angry about? Now again, why did Moses get angry? He didn't get angry because something was done to him. He got angry because of the immorality of the people. That's a different story, right? And even then, that's a little still a question mark, you know. But at an immoral choice that a person makes, there is something to get angry about, or at least show anger. It's likewise by God. When did God ever get angry? Because we did something immoral. He got upset and angry at our immoral choices. That's different than when we get angry because of the consequence of what happened because of what you did. It's not what you did that bothers me so much. Is that how that affected me? And that's what causes anger for the most part. That distinction clear?
Mm-hmm. So what should the response be for the individual, the ideal response when these things happen?
Well, when you recognize it's from God, then it won't be survival of fight or flight. Then it'll be, okay, what's God want from me here? Think about what is the connection that I can make to God in this pain, that I could better serve him. That's what would come out of it. So, yeah, just ask yourself, okay, what does God need me over here for? Rather than I'm feeling violated, I've been triggered, which is animal soul's response and the response or feeling of, right? And then the response will be fight or flight, right? as opposed to what's the meaning behind this? What's the purpose over here? That's what King David understood. There's a purpose over here. He understood that there's something here he has to take out purposefully from, this event, which is, not a simple thing. Now, sometimes it's easy, but the mindset is, oh, this is coming from God. So I connect this to God, coming from him. Okay, now that I got that reference, right? And that's, if it's coming from him now, so there's something here, there's a message here. There's something here I need to take out of this. There's something here I need to take that will help me grow from this, not be less because of it. Right? Something I have to take from here that I'm going to grow, something that's going to help me, not bring me down. That's why when you feel guilty, right, about something, then that's just bringing you down. That's not helping you. So you think, oh, I feel guilty, so I feel vindicated, and in fact, I feel guilty. No, that's your flight way to, not fight and flight. That I can run away because I don't want to feel. No, the person can't feel guilty. You can't live there, or you rationalize it away. That's fight. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to rationalize this away. Right. As opposed to, this is coming from God. I'm connecting this to God. And as a result, there's something good here that I have to take out of this. There's something positive here. It's pain. It doesn't mean it's not painful. It can be painful, but I'm not. I'm not dealing with my animal soul. That my animal soul wants to, preserve myself. So I preserve myself by getting angry at that person because that makes me feel superior. Because what did that person do? Make me feel less than. So my anger is that I feel more than, right? I feel more than. But where's that coming from? Not coming from a good place, coming from a negative place, right?
Excusez-moi, avez-vous un véhicule de stationner dans la rue ici?
No.
What kind of car?
Chrysler Sebring 200, noir. Chrysler.
Chrysler.
No.
You know what? Just ask. Can you go in the office and ask Rena?
Yeah.
I don't think it's. I'm just about positive, but just tell our Chrysler Sebring. Is there anybody else here? No, I don't think. Just ask her in the office. I don't think so. Okay. Liba has a question. Michael has a question. Okay, Michael. When God lets others speak while we daven and we learn and concentrate, no, does that mean that God lets us also bad things happen and we try hard? Yeah, that's where we're going to go with this, Michael. We're not there yet, but yes, it's not about our free will to choose to do something against the person, but rather it is being about us being a tool for Hashem's will. Exactly, Liba. Yeah, we have to understand that this is, if it's coming from God, then I'm going to act as such. Any other questions? Can I have my righteous anger to God and simply commit to trust and simply commit to other? Would that help to overcome it? Cookie, Good question. I'm not exactly certain what you mean by that, though. Can I have a righteous anger to God? Yeah, Abraham. I mean, I wouldn't call it anger, though. I wouldn't call it anger towards God. I would call it questioning. God, Abraham said, right? Why would you kill the righteous with the wicked? He questioned, why would you do that? Maybe there's 50 righteous and so on. We know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But how can you stay calm and not angry when you are wronged over and over again? It's a good question. This is not easy. This is not easy, but it's the truth. First of all, I think what's important over here is know the truth of this, let it penetrate and become part of us, that this is absolute truth. The fact that we don't live to the standard of absolute truth, well, guess what? I don't, we don't, but that doesn't take away from the truth. It's a high bar, and I got to try to live up to it, or I have got to choose to want to do that. Amazing questions. Any other questions? All right. Amazing. It wasn't her, right?
It wasn't from
And God lets others speak. Okay, okay, we're gonna get to that's not.
Andre. 3 o'clock at your house, Rabbi? 3 o'clock?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All good. See you later. Oops.
Disasters that happen are also not an act. Nature is God controlling the world through nature. Nature is a tool of God. There's no such thing called nature that just happens by itself. Nothing happens by itself. It's from God. So all those things are the hand of God. Are there limits to free will? Yeah, sometimes. Good questions. We're going to continue our conversation on this. All right. So stay tuned. We're not finished. Although this should be enough to really help us if we really internalize what we just learned. It will help us to regain ourselves and have composure. It's hard work. We're not gonna be perfect on this, but at least let's work in this direction. All right, let's continue our conversation.